The knock at midnight. The night was quiet. Snowflakes fell slowly from the dark sky, covering the mountains in white. A cold wind blew through the trees, but inside the small wooden cabin, it was warm. John sat near the fire, drinking hot tea. He had lived alone for 5 years. No phone, no neighbors, no visitors. He liked it that way. John was a retired space soldier. He had seen too much war, too many lies. So he came here, far from everything. He chopped wood, read old books, and listened to the silence. But tonight was different. Knock, knock. He froze. The sound came from the front door. Another knock, softer, slower. John stood up slowly. No one ever came here. Not in the middle of the night. Not in this weather. He picked up his old plasma pistol from the table and walked to the door. The scanner on the wall blinked red. No ID detected. He opened the door halfway and looked outside. There, lying on the snow-covered ground, was a woman. She was not moving. Her coat was torn. Her hands were red from the cold. Her face was pale. Her long black hair was stuck to her cheeks, frozen. Her eyes were half closed. She looked like she had been walking for hours. John quickly pulled her inside and closed the door. She was freezing. He took off her coat and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. Her clothes were wet. Her skin was cold like ice. She opened her eyes. Slowly, she looked at him, scared. "Don't let them find me," she whispered. Then she fainted. John stared at her face. There was a bruise on her forehead, and something else, a mark on her neck. A black symbol, like a small triangle with a circle inside. He had seen that mark before. Long ago, in the war, he carried her to the bed and placed a heat pad near her body. He checked her pulse. It was weak, but steady. Who was she? He looked through her coat. In the inside pocket, he found a broken ID card. The name was hard to read, but he saw Mira and the word lab. The rest was damaged. The fire cracked behind him. The wind howled louder outside. John looked at her again. She was shivering, even under the blanket. He turned on the cabins. Shield. Blue lights glowed around the windows. The scanner beeped. Something was moving outside. Something small, fast, and flying. He grabbed his binoculars and looked through the window. A drone. It hovered in the air for a second, then zipped away into the dark. He didn't like this. John closed all metal shutters. Then he turned off the lights. He sat next to the fire with his gun in hand, watching the woman. Suddenly she coughed. Her body shook. Her eyes opened again. "You need to hide me," she said weakly. "They'll kill us both." John didn't answer. He only looked at her face. She was afraid, but not of him. "Who are you?" he asked. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. "My name is Mira," she said. "I ran away from a place under the ground, a lab. They were doing tests on me." "What kind of tests?" he asked. She looked away. "I don't know exactly, but they changed me. I'm not normal anymore." John's eyes narrowed. He had seen things like this before. Secret programs, human experiments, things the government denied. "Why come here?" he asked. She looked straight at him. Her eyes dark. Brown held something else. Sadness. Guilt. "Because I remember your name," she said. "You saved my brother years ago." In Sector 7, John's grip on the gun loosened. He remembered. A boy with a wounded leg. A little scientist's brother who cried for help. That was 10 years ago. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed from the scanner. System flashed red. Something was near. A signal. Unknown. Unregistered. John stood up fast. "Mira," he said, "we need to move." She tried to get up but stumbled. He helped her. She leaned on him, weak but trying. Outside, the snow was falling harder. The wind had changed. It wasn't natural. It felt like it was searching for something. John opened the basement door. "We hide down there," he said. Mira looked at him. "They won't stop, not until I'm dead." John stared into her eyes. "Then let's make sure they fail." They went down into the dark, just as something knocked again, but this time it wasn't human. The cabin basement was cold and dark, but safer than the world outside. The air smelled of metal and dust. Old weapons lined the shelves. This was where John kept everything from his past life, things he hoped he'd never need again. But now that life had returned. Mira sat on a metal chair, wrapped in a blanket, still shaking. Her face was pale. Her lips were dry, but her eyes, they were alive, watching, calculating. John stood a few feet away, arms crossed, gun resting on the table beside him. He wasn't pointing it at her, not yet, but he kept it close. "What did they do to you?" he asked calmly. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the floor as if afraid of her own thoughts. "I was a test subject," she said at last. "But not by choice." John nodded slowly. "Who were they?" "Earth Defense Lab, Deep Sector. Underground facility in Zone 9, she replied. "They said they were building weapons, but it was more than that. They were testing alien DNA, trying to merge it with humans." John blinked. Alien DNA. He had heard rumors, but never seen proof. "They took samples from the crash sites," she continued. "Things they found on the moon, on Mars, even in deep space. They were looking for power. They found something alive, something ancient. And they put it inside you?" She nodded. "It didn't kill me. It changed me." John leaned forward. "How?" Mira lifted her left hand. It trembled. Slowly, before his eyes, her skin shifted. Not completely. Just for a second. Thin blue lines pulsed under her skin like glowing veins. Her fingers stretched, the bones flexible, alien, but only for a moment. Then it stopped. Her hand returned to normal. John stepped back, breath caught in his throat. "I can control it, mostly," she said. "But it grows stronger each day. And I don't know what it wants from me." John didn't speak. He didn't need to. He'd seen enough strange things in war to know when something was real. And Mira wasn't lying. Before he could ask more, a soft buzzing sound echoed from upstairs. The basement scanner lit up. A red dot moved across the screen. Something small, fast, too quiet to be a drone, but smarter. "They're scanning the house," Mira whispered. "They're here." John moved to the wall and typed a code into a small panel. A hidden weapon locker slid open. Inside were energy traps, EMP grenades, and a cloak suit. He tossed the suit to Mira. "Put this on. It'll hide your heat signature." Mira did as he said. Her hands shook, but her movements were fast. She had training. That was clear now. "They said I was the only one it worked on," she said while suiting up. "Others, they died screaming. Some changed into things that couldn't be controlled. Monsters. What did they call you?" Mira looked at him. "Subject E7, but the others called me something else. The bridge." John narrowed his eyes. "Bridge to what?" She didn't answer. Upstairs, something clicked. A soft metallic sound, like a claw against wood. John motioned for silence. They listened. 1, 2, 3, footsteps. Not heavy, not loud, but too precise to be human. Something walked across the floor, scanning the room above them. Then came the voice. "Dr. Kalos. Return now. No pain, no punishment. Return, and your death will be quick." It wasn't a real voice. It was a machine voice, too calm, no emotion. Mira closed her eyes. "They're called cleaners. They look human, but inside, they're machines. designed to find and erase experiments like me. If they see me, they'll call more. John had heard about the cleaners during his service. Ghost units. Silent, fast, and merciless. If one was here, others weren't far behind. He handed Mira a blaster. Can you use this? She nodded. I've trained with worse. John smiled faintly. Good, we're moving. They waited for the steps to pass. Then they opened the basement side exit, a narrow tunnel leading to the forest. Cold air rushed in, biting their skin. Snow had covered the path, but John knew every turn. They walked fast but quiet. Mira kept her head low. Her breath fogged the air. Behind them, a sudden crash echoed from the cabin. The front door was gone. Something was inside now. They'll track your DNA, John said. We need to reach my old cum station, 5 miles west. If we're lucky, it still works. Mira looked at the sky. Her eyes glowed faintly for a moment. They're not just tracking me, she said. They're listening to everything I think. John stopped walking. You mean they can read your mind? She nodded. Not clearly, but they feel me. And they're getting closer. A gust of wind howled through the trees. Snow danced in the air. Far behind them, in the forest shadows, red eyes blinked to life, one by one. They've found us. Mira whispered. John checked his blaster. Then, we run, he said, or we fight. The trees blurred as they ran. Snow whipped past their faces. Behind them, the red eyes moved silently through the forest. No footsteps, no voices. Only the quiet terror of being hunted. John led the way, his old soldier instincts taking over. He knew every curve of this land, every hidden trail and sound the forest made. But even with all his training, he could feel that something was different this time. These weren't normal enemies. These weren't men. Mira struggled to keep up. Her breath came fast, white puffs in the freezing air. Her body was shaking, not from the cold, but from something inside her. Something growing stronger. Wait, she said, stumbling to one knee. It's happening again. John stopped and turned around. She was holding her side, her face twisted in pain. What's wrong? He asked. It's waking up, she whispered. Then she screamed out. It wasn't a human scream. It was deep, sharp, full of something ancient and powerful. Her body arched backward. A blue glow erupted from her skin, like electricity. Her arms shook violently. Her eyes turned completely black. John stepped back. Gun raised, but he didn't fire. Veins lit up along her neck and arms, glowing like liquid light beneath the skin. Her breath came out in short bursts, steam rising from her body. Suddenly, the trees behind them rustled. The cleaners had arrived. 3 figures stepped into the clearing, tall, thin, and wrapped in black armor. Their faces were smooth, silver, without eyes or mouths. Long weapons hung from their arms, machines fused with flesh. They spoke as one. Voice cold and flat. Target found. Terminate? John opened fire. His blast hit the lid cleaner, knocking it back, but not down. The thing twisted its head and charged forward. The others moved around it, spreading like hunters in a trap. Then Mira stood up. Her body glowed brighter now. Her voice came out low, layered like more than one person was speaking through her. No, she said. You don't control me anymore. She raised her hand. A wave of blue light shot from her fingers. It hit the first cleaner in the chest and melted it. The armor cracked. The metal twisted. The machine let out a sharp, high scream before collapsing into the snow. The other 2 cleaners paused. Mira turned to John. Her eyes were still black, but her voice was clearer now. I don't know how long I can hold it back. John nodded, then let it out. With a roar, she ran forward faster than any human. Her hands glowed, shifting into sharp alien claws. She slashed at the second cleaner, cutting through its armor. Sparks flew, wires snapped. The cleaner fell. The last one raised its weapon. A red light blinked at the tip. Mira, down. John shouted. He fired. His blast hit the cleaner's weapon, making it explode. The force knocked the machine to the ground. Mira leapt onto it, driving her claws through its chest. The machine twitched once, then went still. Silence fell. Snowflakes drifted gently through the burned air. Mira stood in the middle of the ruined machines, her chest rising and falling. The blue light faded from her skin. Her hands returned to normal. Her eyes, human again, were full of fear. She dropped to her knees. I didn't mean to kill them like that, she said, voice shaking. John walked over, kneeling beside her. You didn't choose this, but you controlled it. That matters. She looked at him, unsure. It feels like something else is inside me, something waiting to break free. When I fight, it likes it. John didn't speak for a moment. Then he placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever's inside you, it hasn't won. Not yet. She nodded slowly. John stood and scanned the forest. More would come. They didn't have much time. We're close to the cum tower, he said. If we can get there, I can send a signal to an old contact. Someone who might know what's really going on. Mira stood too, breathing heavily. And if they don't help? Then we disappear, he said. Together, they started walking again. This time, Mira moved faster, stronger. The fight had drained her, but also awakened something deeper, something she was no longer hiding from. As they walked, John glanced at her. For a moment, she didn't look human. Her shadow moved differently. Her steps made no sound. And when she turned to look at him, her eyes flashed with something alien. But then she smiled, small, tired, human. John didn't know if she was a weapon, a victim, or something in between. But one thing was clear. She wasn't who she seemed. She was more. And whatever was coming next, it was only the beginning. The old cum tower stood at the edge of the frozen cliffs like a dying skeleton. Its tall frame was covered in rust, half buried in snow, antennas bent from years of storms. John stopped at the tree line and scanned the area with his scope. No movement. No heat signatures, but he knew better than to trust silence. Where? Here, he whispered. Mira nodded, but she looked tired. Her skin was pale again. Whatever power she had used earlier had faded. Now she walked like a normal human, hurt, cold, and afraid. They crossed the open snow carefully, boots crunching. Softly. John led her to a hatch beneath the tower. He wiped off the ice and tapped in an old code. The lock blinked green. The door creaked open. Inside was dark, narrow, and smelled like dust and machine oil. The tunnel led to a control room buried deep in the ground. John flipped switches as they moved. Dim emergency lights flickered on, revealing old wires, broken panels, and dust-covered screens. This place still works? Mira asked. John gave a short nod. Mostly. I used it during the last wave war. It was off-grid. Still is. They reached the main chamber. A cracked glass panel lit up faintly as John touched it. Static filled the room. Then a low hum. He adjusted the controls and opened a narrow cum link. This is Outpost 17. Code Eclipse Red. Emergency level Omega. Is anyone receiving? Static. Then a voice, rough, familiar. John, is that you? John's eyes narrowed. Keller? Yeah, the voice replied. What the hell's going on? That code hasn't been used in 15 years. John looked at Mira, then back at the mic. I've got someone with me. From Earth Defense Lab, she's infected with something alien. She says she's being hunted. A long pause. Then, get out of there, John. Now. Why? You don't understand, Keller said, voice suddenly serious. They're not just hunting her. They're testing Earth's defenses. She's the beginning. John's hand tightened on the mic. Tell me everything. But before Keller could answer, the screen flashed red. The tower's scanners lit up with movement. Dozens of signals. Surrounding them fast. They're here, Mira whispered. The real ones. John ran to the wall and slammed the lockdown switch. Thick metal doors slid into place. He handed Mira a rifle and checked his own blaster. Then he turned to her. Can you still fight? Mira nodded. If I don't lose control. John looked her straight in the eyes. Then don't. The first blast hit the tower seconds later. A piercing hum shook the walls. The roof cracked. Dust fell from above. Then came the sound of metal claws scraping against steel. They're not drones, Mira said softly. They're alive. The lights flickered. Then one of them dropped into the hallway, tall, armored, but breathing. Its body looked like it was made of wires and bones, glowing from the inside. Its face was nothing but a dark shell with red lines across it. It didn't speak. It moved. John fired first. The blast hit the creature's chest, making it stagger, but it didn't fall. It roared a deep electric growl and charged. Mira screamed, but this time it wasn't fear. It was the other voice. The thing inside her. Her hands lit up with blue light again. She raised them and threw the creature back with a wave of energy. It slammed against the wall and exploded in a burst of sparks and smoke. More were coming. They dropped from above, crawled through vents, and ripped open the back walls. 10, 20. Maybe more. John and Mira fought side by side, shooting, blasting, dodging. But it wasn't enough. They're trying to take me alive, Mira said. They need what's inside me. John yelled over the noise. Then we make sure they don't get it. He grabbed a thermal grenade, pulled the pin, and threw it into the hallway. The explosion shook the tower. Screams echoed, but the creatures kept coming. Mira dropped to her knees again. Her arms glowed brighter now. Her veins were pulsing with light. I can't hold it, she cried. It wants out. John rushed to her side. Then let it out, he said. But stay you. Her scream shook the air. A wave of blue fire burst from her body, knocking everything away. The creatures closest to her were vaporized. The others stopped, sensing the change. Mira stood slowly, her face glowing with strange symbols. Her voice was layered again. I remember now, she said, what they put inside me. It wasn't just alien DNA. It was a message. John stared. From what? She looked up, eyes glowing like stars. From something that's coming. And outside, above the clouds, something huge moved in the sky, something that blocked the moonlight and sent a signal no human could read. But Mira. Kadachi had always been the bridge. And now, the door was opening. Silence fell after the blast. The tower was broken, half of it crumbling into snow. Smoke floated in the air like ghosts. Dead machines lay scattered around Mira, twisted metal, glowing wires, and cracked armor still hissing with sparks. This light in her skin faded slowly, retreating into her veins like a tide pulling back. John stood at a distance, gun lowered, watching her with caution. She turned to him. Her face was calm now, but her eyes, they held something far older than fear. I know who I am now, she said. John didn't speak. He waited. Mira looked up at the dark sky. The strange shape above the clouds, huge and still, cast a faint shadow on the snow. It didn't move like a ship. It didn't hum like a machine. It just waited. They told me I was an experiment, Mira said, slowly walking toward him. That I was lucky. That the alien DNA bonded with me when others died. John nodded. You said that before. She shook her head. That was only part of it. A lie they used to keep me under control. She stopped in front of him. They didn't find the alien DNA, it found them. It called to them from deep space, a signal, ancient, and when they followed it, they didn't just collect samples. They brought something back, something alive, something that thinks. John's grip on his weapon tightened slightly. What kind of something? A mind, she said. Not a creature, not a ship, but a living thought. It was buried inside a piece of alien stone they found on Titan's dark side. And when they brought it back to Earth, it spoke, not in words. In feelings, memories, visions. They thought they could study it, use it, turn it into a weapon, so they made me the bridge. They put part of that alien mind inside me, thinking they could control it through me. And did they? John asked. She shook her head. No, they only woke it up. Mira placed a hand on her chest. It's not evil, John. It doesn't want war. But it's not human either. It doesn't understand us. It sees pain, power, survival. And now it knows everything I know. John took a slow breath. So it's awake inside you? Yes, she said. And it's watching, learning. She looked at the sky again. The object above the clouds had grown clearer. It was no ship, it was like a floating city or a living mountain made of stone and light. Symbols moved across its surface, glowing and shifting. That's why the cleaners were chasing me, Mira said. Not to kill me, but to stop it from fully waking. They were trying to keep Earth quiet. Because once it fully connects with me, it will come here. All of it. John stepped closer. Why didn't they just kill you earlier? Because they were afraid, she said. Afraid that hurting me would trigger a signal, a call. And now it's too late. I've connected to it completely. John stared at her. Then tell me this, are you still in control? Mira looked down at her hands. They were still glowing faintly. I don't know, she whispered. Sometimes it feels like I'm just a small voice in a much bigger mind. She met his eyes. But I'm still fighting. I'm still me. For now. John looked at the sky. The massive shape above them was no longer still. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. The snow beneath their feet trembled. I sent out that distress call, he said. Keller picked it up. Others will come. Military. Labs. Maybe worse. They'll want to use me again, Mira said. Or destroy me. But it won't matter. That thing, it's not waiting for Earth's permission. Suddenly, her body tensed. She clutched her head. What's wrong? John asked, moving toward her. She gasped. It's speaking to me. Her voice changed again, deeper, layered with something not human. Contact confirmed. Full merge possible. Transmission begins now. A beam of light shot down from the sky, wrapping around Mira like a column. She floated inches above the ground, her hair lifting in the energy, her eyes glowing pure white. John raised his gun, but hesitated. She wasn't struggling. She didn't scream. The beam faded. Mira fell to her knees, breathing hard. The light in the sky blinked, then went silent. She looked up, confused. It stopped, she said. It paused. Why? John asked. It felt something, she replied slowly. It saw your mind through mine. It didn't expect mercy. John frowned. What does that mean? She stood, shaky but alive. It means it's listening, and now it's thinking. The sky was still again, but the feeling remained like. The world was standing on the edge of something massive. John holstered his weapon. We need to move. There's a place deep underground. Black site. Maybe they'll have answers or at least a plan. Mira nodded. If I lose control again, promise me you'll end it. He looked at her for a long time. No, he said. Not until you stop fighting. And together, they vanished into the frozen woods. One soldier, One living signal running toward a future no human had ever prepared for. The world was quiet again, but not safe. John and Mira moved through the frozen forest like shadows, heading toward a place neither of them wanted to see again. The hidden black site known as Vault 9. It was buried beneath the mountains, deeper than any base ever shown on maps. John had helped build it during his last mission, years before he vanished into exile. It wasn't a lab. It wasn't a shelter. It was a cage. Built to hold things too dangerous for war. Now they were going back to it. And Mira, the girl with alien power growing inside her, was the key to opening it. Snow crunched beneath their boots. The air was heavy, like the planet itself was holding its breath. "They'll be waiting for us," Mira said. Her voice was steady now, but distant. She hadn't slept. Her eyes no longer glowed, but they looked deeper than before, like she was seeing through the world, not just at it. John checked his scanner. "I know. I just hope they're still human." They reached the entrance just before dawn. The sun rose weak behind gray clouds, casting dull light on the cliff wall. There was no visible door, no guard post, only a black stone with an old symbol burned into it. 3 circles. One broken dot. John placed his hand on the stone. A scanner blinked. A voice, cold and mechanical, spoke. "Access denied." Subject, John Carter. Retired, unauthorized. He grinned. Still rude. Then Myra stepped forward. The moment her fingers touched the stone, the symbol pulsed with light. The rock split with a low rumble, revealing a metal path going underground. Base had recognized her not as a threat, but as its master. They entered. Vault 9 was colder than the world outside. Lights flickered above long hallways made of black steel. Doors lined the walls, some sealed, some broken. John noticed the scratches on the metal claw marks, burn marks. Signs of things that had once been locked inside, but weren't anymore. "Something happened here," he said quietly. Mira nodded. They tried to stop the signal. They reached the main chamber. A tall circular room with a single glowing platform in the center. Around it, shattered glass tubes lay on the floor. Empty pods. Dead machines, and one person, waiting, a woman, stood beside the platform, short, sharp-eyed, wrapped in a gray coat. Her hair was tied back, her face lined by time and war. John recognized her instantly. "Dr. Ellen Voss," he said. "Didn't expect to see you outside a command bunker." She didn't smile. "Didn't expect you to bring her." Her eyes locked onto Myra. "You've done more damage than any alien invasion could." Myra didn't flinch. "I didn't choose this." "No," Voss replied, "but you are the problem." John stepped between them. "She saved my life." "More than once." Voss walked closer. "That thing inside her, it's not just observing anymore. It's testing us. It's pushing her toward full integration. And once that happens, it will decide if Earth survives." Mira looked down. "It doesn't want to destroy us." "But it doesn't trust us either," Voss scoffed. "Would you?" She pointed to the platform. "This is the final test. A direct link to the entity. If she steps into that field, she can speak to it fully, not through visions, not through pain, but mind to mind, soul to soul." John frowned. "And if it sees something it doesn't like?" "Then it ends us," Voss said. Flatly. "No war, no fight, just silence." Mira looked at the platform. Her hands trembled slightly. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of dying, but of losing who I am." John placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then hold on to what matters. You're not just a bridge, you're still you. And that's what makes you different." She stepped forward. The platform hummed as she entered. Light wrapped around her like fog. Her eyes closed. Her body floated above the ground. And then everything stopped. No sound. no light. Just stillness. Inside her mind, Mira was no longer in the vault. She stood in a vast black space filled with stars. Shapes moved in the distance, huge and slow, like living planets. A voice, too big to hear with ears, spoke inside her. You are pain, you are mercy, you are both. I am human, she replied. But I'm more now, because of you. You kill, you save, you change. Why should we trust what cannot decide what it is? Because we feel, we fight against what we hate, and sometimes we fight to protect what we love. Silence, then. We will wait. We will not invade, but we will watch. Through you. Myra opened her eyes. The light faded. She felt John caught her before she hit the ground. Voss stepped forward. What happened? They're not coming, Mira whispered. Not yet, but they're watching and learning. John helped her stand. So we passed? Myra looked toward the sky above. No, she said. We've just been given time. What we do with it, that's the real test. For a few days, the world was quiet. After the test inside Vault 9, the alien presence had withdrawn. No ships, no lights in the sky, no signals. It was as if the stars were holding their breath. Mira had returned to the surface with John, weaker, but alive. Whatever energy had linked her to the alien mind was no longer burning her from the inside. She could sleep again, eat again, laugh once or twice, but she knew it was not over. John knew it too. They stayed in a secure bunker hidden deep within the mountains. Dr. Voss sent updates from every continent. Nations were on alert. Satellite data confirmed strange shifts in the atmosphere. Weather patterns no longer followed natural rules. Storms appeared and vanished. Static energy built up in the sky with no cause. And above it all, the object, the living structure Mira had first seen, still floated beyond Earth's orbit. Just watching. The world was not under attack, but it was being studied. They're learning through me, Mira said one night, sitting near the fire with John. Her voice was quiet, but they're also waiting for a reason to come. John leaned forward. So we stop giving them one. She smiled faintly. It's not that simple. 3 days later, everything changed. A signal louder than before, clearer, was picked up by every satellite, radio, and transmission tower on the planet. It wasn't a message in words, but emotion, curiosity, hunger. Warning, the sky above Europe cracked open. Not with light, not with fire, but with silence. A ripple spread through the clouds like a wound. And from it descended something enormous. Not a ship, not a creature, a mind. Wearing form. It looked like a floating mountain of shifting stone and living light. Moving slowly above the earth. Cities below went dark. Planes fell from the sky. Time itself bent near the surface of the being. John and Mira stood outside the bunker, watching it. It's not a weapon, she whispered. It's a question. What kind of question? If we're worth keeping. The creature hovered for hours without speaking. Around the world, armies pointed their weapons at it. Panic spread. Riots broke out, but it didn't strike. It didn't move until a single voice from Mira reached it. She didn't speak out loud. She closed her eyes, reached within, and whispered one simple thought: see us. And it did. Alien mind unfolded itself not into war, but into memory. It shared flashes of its own story. A galaxy once full of life. Then war, fire, silence. It had watched worlds rise and fall. It had seen civilizations destroy themselves chasing power. And it had always moved on. Until now. Earth was different. Not because humans were perfect, but because, unlike the others, humans still chose to fight for each other. It had seen John risk his life for Myra, Mira risked her soul to speak instead of destroy. It had seen mercy in the middle of chaos, love inside pain. The alien's voice echoed across the planet, not in sound, but in every heart. We will not destroy you. We will not guide you. We will leave and remember. And just like that, the great being began to dissolve into light. Its massive form folded into 1,000 streams of energy, dancing into the sky like stars reborn. It left no scars, no damage, only silence and the deep feeling that something great had come and gone. Back at the mountain, Mira stood motionless. John stepped forward. Is it gone? She opened her eyes slowly. Yes, but part of it stayed with me. He looked at her, uncertain. You mean the power? She nodded. The connection, but not the control. It's like a library opened inside my mind. I can feel what it felt. I can understand what it saw. And what now? He asked. Are you still human? Mira looked at him, really looked, and smiled. Yes, but I'm also something more. Not a weapon, not a threat. A message, maybe. Proof that something small can change something huge. She stepped closer and placed a hand on his chest. You reminded me who I was. That's why it listened. Not because I was powerful, but because you saw me before it did. He smiled. Guess I'm not as retired as I thought. They both looked to the sky. Stars shone brightly. The night felt different now, like the universe itself had leaned closer, taken a look, and quietly stepped back. Not out of fear, out of respect. The world had survived its first conversation. With something beyond understanding. Not by force, but by hope. And Mira, the girl who collapsed at a stranger's door, covered in snow and shame, had become something no one expected. A guardian. A bridge. A beginning.